Hello and welcome to the Snoozy Scientist, where we explore life's greatest puzzles, one sleepy yawn at a time. Tonight, we're drifting together into a question that has puzzled curious minds for years. Are humans still evolving, or have we built a world so safe, so smart, that evolution has quietly stepped back and left us as we are? Long ago, nature shaped us with every struggle and storm. We adapted, we survived, we grew stronger. But what about now? Some people say we've outsmarted survival of the fittest. Others believe we're still gently drifting along the old path, but in ways so subtle we barely notice. Together, we'll wander through simple truths, tiny wonders, and real life clues that show how our bodies and minds may still be growing, shaping, and becoming something new. But before we wander too far, I'd love to know, where in the world are you listening from tonight? Drop a comment and tell me what time it is wherever you're winding down. And if these sleepy rambles help you drift off, please tap like and consider subscribing. It helps keep this snoozy little corner of the internet alive. So fluff your pillow, take a deep breath, settle in, and let us drift through the secret ways our future might be unfolding right before our eyes. Long before cities, electricity, books, before pyramids, farming, and fire, before humans ever stood up to look at the stars, the story of us was already unfolding in silence. Tiny shapes drifted through warm ancient seas, single-celled creatures so small you could hold millions on the tip of your finger, yet inside each one was the spark of something bigger to come. Life began with these simple cells. They fed on sunlight, minerals, and warmth. They learned to split apart and copy themselves. Not perfectly, tiny mistakes slipped in every time, but those mistakes were a gift. They made some cells stronger, some faster, some better able to survive when the seas turned cold or the food ran low. That is what evolution does. It changes the plan, bit by bit, until the plan becomes something new. These tiny changes, hidden in the darkness of ancient oceans, slowly gave rise to creatures that learned to work together. Cells grouped up to share the work of living. Some cells moved food around. Others grew fins and tails to swim faster. Little by little, eyes appeared, simple dots that could tell light from dark. Then came one of life's boldest steps. Some fish-like creatures, stronger than the rest, pushed themselves onto muddy shores. Fins became sturdy enough to drag heavy bodies forward. Lungs learned to pull air from the sky instead of water. From those first wobbly crawls came the first footprints on land. Generations passed. Forests and swamps replaced shallow seas. Some creatures learned to breathe deep in tangled roots and thick ferns. Legs grew longer, tails balanced bodies. The ones who could hide best or run fastest survived. Among these early wanderers, tiny warm-blooded mammals scurried under giant shadows. While dinosaurs thundered above, these small creatures made nests, kept each other warm, and waited. When the giant reptiles vanished after a fiery asteroid strike, the world opened for something new. Mammals stepped forward, growing and changing with every passing season. Some of them climbed trees and never looked back. Others stayed on the ground, looking for seeds, fruit, and insects. Their hands gripped branches, their eyes spotted ripe berries, their brains quietly expanded, learning new tricks with each generation. These early primates became our distant family. They lived in the treetops, slept in leafy beds, and traveled in small groups. But some, one day, stepped down from the branches. The open grasslands offered new risks and new rewards. Walking upright meant they could see danger coming. It freed their hands to carry food, tools, and children. They gathered around fires, they learned to tame. They made sharp stones to cut meat, strong hides to keep out the cold. They watched the stars and the animals, remembering trails and seasons. Slowly, the world filled with quiet chatter. The first words, the first names, passed from one mouth to another. Time pushed them onward. Out of Africa they spread, footsteps marking snow, sand, forests, and mountain passes. Some settled by rivers that flooded and fed green fields. Some braved endless winter winds, stitching furs together to keep warm. Each place shaped the people who lived there. Bodies adapted to heat or ice. Skin changed shade to match the sun. New ideas spread like seeds on the wind, planting crops, building villages, shaping the world to fit their dreams. Every winter survived, every hunt returned from, every child born and raised kept the chain unbroken. In that chain are your ancestors, hidden in the shadows of history. Thousands of grandmothers and grandfathers who faced storms, hunger, and wild animals so you could one day lie safe and warm, wondering how you got here. Their courage is in your bones. Their stories hum in your blood, even if you never hear the words. You are not separate from that ancient march. You are its latest step. The single cell that learned to split still lives in you. The fish that crawled ashore, the hunter who carried fire through a dark forest, the family that crossed frozen plains with hope tied up in fur bundles. Tonight, as you drift closer to sleep, remember this quiet truth. You are an ending and a beginning. You are the living proof that life never stands still. Evolution has shaped you in ways you can see and ways you cannot. And even now, it keeps working deep within you, gently passing forward the story that began so long before you ever looked up to see the stars. Evolution is one of nature's quietest forces. You cannot hear it or see it happening in real time, yet it shapes every living thing on Earth. It works like a patient artist, using tiny changes to paint new forms of life. These changes begin in our genes, the instructions tucked away inside each cell of your body. Every time a living thing grows, heals, or has children, these instructions get copied, but sometimes the copy is not perfect. A small mistake, called a mutation, slips in. Most of these tiny mistakes do nothing at all. Some changes break things and disappear, but once in a while, a change makes a creature just a little better at surviving. Maybe it can run faster, hide more easily, or digest new foods. Maybe its fur is thicker for cold nights, or its eyes see better in the dark. When this happens, that lucky change can be passed on to the next generation. Over time, with enough lucky changes stacked up, a whole population can start to look and act different from the one that came before. This is what people mean when they say natural selection. Nature does the selecting. Creatures best suited to their world have a better chance to grow up strong, find food, and raise babies of their own. Their babies carry the same helpful traits. Slowly, the creatures who do not fit in as well fade away, and the traits that work best become common. Natural selection is not about the strongest or the biggest. It is about what works in each place and time. In some environments, being small and quiet helps you live. In others, being big and bold keeps you safe. But natural selection is not the only part of evolution's toolkit. There is something called genetic drift. Drift happens when traits change, simply by chance. Imagine a small group of animals living on an island. If only a few of them survive a storm, the traits those few carry will shape the whole group that comes next. Not because those traits were better, but because chance made it so. Over many generations, small shifts like this can build up into big differences, especially in tiny or isolated groups. Another way new traits spread is through mutations that have nothing to do with survival at first. A pattern on butterfly wings, a new color in someone's eyes, a tiny shift in a bird's song. Some of these changes might just drift along for years, waiting for a moment when they suddenly become helpful. Then, natural selection might give them a gentle push forward. It is easy to think evolution is a ladder. People sometimes picture it as a climb from simple to perfect, one neat step at a time, but nature does not work in straight lines. Evolution is more like a branching tree, with limbs that twist, split, and sometimes break off. A branch might sprout many twigs, each trying its own path. Some twigs grow into strong branches, others shrivel and fall away. There is no single perfect direction. There is only what works for right now. Look at all the different animals and plants on Earth. Some creatures barely changed in millions of years because what they do works just fine. Horseshoe crabs have scuttled along ocean floors since the time of the dinosaurs. Some bacteria have stayed the same for billions of years. In other places, life changes quickly. New flowers bloom on mountains where glaciers melt. Insects develop new colors to hide from hungry birds. Human bodies, too, keep shifting in tiny ways, in our genes, in our cells, in how we handle new diseases or foods. Even small differences matter. A slight curve in a bird's beak can mean the difference between finding seeds or starving. A single gene that resists a virus can help someone survive an outbreak. These small changes build up slowly, layer upon layer. Over thousands of years, they can create new species, new ways of living, or new ways of thinking. Think of your own body. Inside you are tiny clues of your family's past. Hair color, eye color, how tall you grow, even how you react to certain foods. Some of these traits come from parents and grandparents you know. Others drifted through hundreds of generations before ever reaching you. Evolution is not a race to be the biggest or the smartest. It is simply life's way of trying new things and keeping what works. Sometimes what works best is to stay the same. Other times it means changing again and again to keep up with a world that never stops shifting. As you settle deeper into sleep, remember that you are part of this branching tree of life. You carry old stories in your blood and fresh possibilities in your cells. The same slow force that turned tiny fish into creatures who could walk on land is still at work today, quietly, patiently, one tiny step at a time. When people think of evolution, they often imagine dramatic changes. They picture fish growing legs overnight, or a monkey waking up one day as a human. But nature does not work like that. Evolution is slow and quiet. It moves in tiny steps that add up over thousands, sometimes millions of years. These steps can shape bones, skin, hair, or even how a heart beats and how a brain thinks. But each step by itself is so small, you would never see it happening. Think of a mountain being worn away by rain. You cannot see the rock changing if you stare for a few minutes or even a few years, but come back after thousands of years and you will see new valleys, new cliffs, and new rivers where the stone once stood strong. That is how evolution works in your body and mind. It does not rush, it does not shout, it simply drifts forward, letting tiny changes build and build until one day a new shape or new ability has quietly settled in. Some changes are easy to spot when you look back in time. Our early ancestors were much shorter than most people today. Their jaws were bigger and they had more teeth to chew raw meat and tough plants. As humans learned to cook food and build tools to cut and mash it, we did not need such strong jaws or so many teeth. Over thousands of years, our jaws grew smaller. Now, many people do not even have room for all their wisdom teeth. That tiny detail, the pain you feel when your wisdom teeth push through, is a reminder that evolution is still moving, still adjusting us to a life that is softer than what our ancestors faced. Sometimes the world around us changes so quickly that small shifts in our genes cannot keep up. But even then, the tiny changes never stop. Every time a baby is born, its DNA carries small surprises. Some may never matter, others might one day help that child's children or grandchildren survive something new. These changes hide in our blood and bones, waiting for the right moment to matter. Look at disease. There are people alive today with gene mutations that help them resist certain viruses. These changes did not appear overnight. They came from centuries of people facing sickness, surviving, and passing down the traits that protected them. If you look at people who have lived for generations in places where malaria is common, you find genetic patterns that help their bodies fight the disease. These changes happened over many lifetimes, one small step at a time. But not all changes show up in our bodies. Some happen in ways you can only see through careful study. Scientists now know that some parts of our DNA can turn on and off, almost like a light switch. This is called epigenetics. It means that what you eat, how you live, and even how much stress you feel can leave tiny marks on your DNA. These marks can sometimes be passed down to your children. A simple thing like a parent's diet might shape how a child's genes work. You might think that in the modern world, with medicine and cozy homes, we are safe from nature's tests. But new tests are always there. Think about how our daily lives have changed. Many people spend hours looking at screens. Some scientists wonder if the way we use our eyes and brains will slowly shape how we see and think over many generations. Will our eyes adapt to glowing screens? Will our brains change to handle constant streams of information? These shifts may be happening now, but they are so small that no one can see them yet. Even how we choose to live together might shape tiny changes. In cities where millions of people gather, we share germs, ideas, and even genes more than ever before. This mixing can spread helpful traits quickly, or it might create new problems that our bodies will need to adapt to. Some changes may take hundreds of years to show up. Others may drift in quietly, hiding in our DNA until the world pushes them forward. Think of your family tree. Your great-grandparents did not have the same foods, tools, or comforts you have now. They faced diseases and challenges you will never know. Their struggles left small marks in the genes they passed down. You carry them, mixed with countless tiny changes that happened long before their time. Those changes did not stop when you were born. They did not pause just because the world feels modern and safe. They are still at work, humming in your cells while you sleep, while you grow, while you dream about tomorrow. So when you wonder how fast evolution really happens, remember this: big changes take time, but the tiniest shifts are always moving. They are the quiet footsteps that keep your story going, generation after generation, hidden in the secret places of your body where time keeps shaping you into something new. In this way, evolution is always here, patient, gentle, and never really still. Are we different from animals? Are we different from animals? Humans like to think we stand apart from the rest of nature. We build great cities. We tell stories around warm fires. We dream about tomorrow while still remembering the past. But under all our clever ideas and bright lights, we are still animals. We breathe the same air as birds and wolves. We share the same earth as insects and whales. What makes us feel different is not that we stand outside of nature, but how we have learned to shape it. Other animals rely on teeth, claws, speed, or hiding to survive. We rely on something softer, yet stronger, our minds and our hands. Long ago, Our ancestors discovered how to turn a stone into a sharp blade. Later, they learned to use fire to cook food and warm dark caves. These early tools made life safer and a little easier. Over time, tools became more complex: spears and needles, wheels and plows, hammers and houses. Today, we build machines that carry us across the sky and tiny devices that help doctors heal a broken heart. Our tools changed how nature's tests reach us. A bitter winter that might once have wiped out an entire family now means we build thicker walls and light another fire. A disease that might have spread through a village can be treated with medicine or blocked with vaccines. While animals in the wild must fight alone to survive, we humans work together to protect each other. That bond is one of our greatest tools. Shelter is not just wood and stone, it is the circle of people who care for each other. When someone is weak or sick, others step in. In the wild, a sick animal often falls behind. Predators find it quickly, and its traits may fade from the group. In human families, we carry the sick and the weak. We invent ways to help them live longer. We protect each other from the cold touch of nature's harshest lessons. This does not mean natural selection has vanished. It has simply changed its shape. In some ways, our kindness keeps traits in our gene pool that might once have disappeared. A child born with a serious illness centuries ago might not have survived. Today, medicine and care help that child grow up, share love, and pass on their genes. The same goes for traits like poor eyesight. In the past, someone who could not see well might have struggled to hunt or watch for danger. Now, we have glasses, surgeries, and screens that help us see and do our work just fine. Our culture is like a blanket wrapped around us. It keeps the worst winds of nature from blowing too hard. We share knowledge and stories, teaching each new generation what we have learned. We invent new ways to stay safe and comfortable. We send satellites into space and build bridges across oceans. We use our minds to solve problems faster than our bodies can adapt on their own. But does this mean we have stopped evolving? The answer is no. Evolution does not care how clever we are. It only cares about what works. The world keeps changing, and so do we. Our tools and shelters do not erase nature's tests. They only change the questions. When a new disease appears, some people's bodies may be better prepared to fight it than others. When food becomes scarce or climates shift, some traits may help people adapt more easily than others. Our choices even shape evolution in new ways. We decide who we share our lives with. We choose partners from different places, blending genes that might never have met before. We move across continents and settle in cities filled with people from every part of the world. This mixing brings fresh combinations of traits that drift through our children and grandchildren, spreading tiny changes far and wide. Culture itself can push evolution. How we live together, what we eat, how much we move, and how we spend our days all create gentle pressures on our bodies and minds. Spending hours at screens, eating foods our ancestors never knew, sleeping under electric lights, all these things may shape our future in ways we cannot yet see. In the wild, animals depend on teeth and claws. We depend on each other. We care for the sick and protect the young. We build, share, and dream together. That bond is our special strength, but it does not lift us out of nature's reach. We are still part of the same great tree of life, our roots buried deep in the soil of every living thing that came before us. So when you wonder if evolution has stopped for us, remember this: it has not stopped. It has simply learned to wear new clothes. Instead of claws and fur, we have community and care. Instead of sharp teeth, we have sharp ideas. But we are still changing, slowly and quietly, just like every other creature that calls this world home. In the end, we are not separate from nature. We are nature dreaming of what comes next. Long ago, survival was a harsh and simple thing. If a person was too sick or weak to hunt, gather food, or protect themselves from wild animals, they might not survive long enough to pass on their genes. A small cut could turn deadly. A cold winter could take the old, the young, and the frail without mercy. In those days, natural selection was like a strong wind, sweeping away those who could not keep up and pushing forward the traits that helped people stay alive. Today, that wind feels softer. It is not gone, but it blows in different ways. Modern life has given us powerful tools to stand against the dangers that once shaped our bodies so fiercely. Medicine, surgery, vaccines, and antibiotics have changed how nature's tests reach us. When a new disease spreads through a community, our ancestors had no choice but to hope their bodies were strong enough to fight it off. If they survived, their children might inherit the same strength. If they did not, that weakness faded from the family line. Now, when diseases appear, we fight them together. We create vaccines that train our bodies to recognize and defeat invisible threats before they can take hold. A child who might once have died from measles or smallpox can now grow up healthy and strong because a simple shot keeps the danger away. Antibiotics help us heal from infections that would have been fatal just a few generations ago. A cut on a foot, a bite from an animal, or a tiny scratch that lets in bacteria once meant a fever that could steal a life. Now, a few pills or an injection help our immune systems win battles they might have lost alone. Surgeries repair hearts, replace joints, remove tumors, and even help tiny babies survive before they are ready to take their first breath. These tools mean that traits once kept in check by nature's harsh hand now remain in our gene pool. Some people wonder if this means we have broken natural selection. It has not disappeared. It has only changed shape. Traits that once kept someone from surviving can now continue through families. Poor eyesight, brittle bones, or even certain genetic diseases do not stop people from living long, full lives or having children of their own. In this way, our care and kindness soften nature's tests. But while modern life protects us in many ways, it also creates new pressures we did not face before. These pressures are gentler than being chased by a predator, but they are still real. Think about how we live now. Many of us spend long hours sitting. We look at glowing screens instead of wide open fields. We eat foods packed with sugar, salt, and fats that our ancestors never knew. Some bodies handle this well. Others struggle. Over time, these differences may shape how our bodies work and adapt. Diseases that once came and went now linger in new forms. Bacteria learn to resist the antibiotics we use so freely. Some scientists worry that we may one day run out of medicines that work, forcing our bodies to fight harder on their own again. This could push natural selection to rise up in places where we thought we had tamed it. Modern life also changes how we connect with each other. In the past, people often found partners in the same village or tribe. Traits and genes stayed within small groups. Now, people move across cities, countries, and continents. We choose partners from all around the world, mixing traits that once stayed separate. This blending brings fresh combinations of genes that drift through families, shaping how we adapt to new challenges. Stress is another quiet test that has grown stronger in modern life. Our ancestors faced stress too: wild animals, hunger, storms, and war, but they did not have ringing phones, flashing screens, and crowds of strangers pressing close every day. Some bodies and minds handle this constant noise better than others. Over time, it may change what traits help people thrive in busy, crowded cities compared to those living in quiet, wide open places. Our care for each other adds new layers. We use machines to help tiny babies who are born too soon. We share organs through transplants. We offer therapies and medicine to help people live longer and better, no matter what they inherit from their family line. This kindness does not stop natural selection. It simply means that love and science stand together with nature, shaping who survives and what gets passed on. Think of it this way: natural selection is still here, but it is not alone. It works alongside our inventions, our kindness, our mistakes, and our dreams. It hums quietly under the surface of every hospital, every pharmacy, every doctor's visit. It watches how we treat each other, how we build our cities, and how we change our food, our homes, and our daily lives. So the next time you hear someone say that evolution has stopped, remember this gentle truth: it has not stopped. It has only changed. Our tools help us bend nature's tests, but they do not erase them. Every vaccine, every surgery, every pill is part of the story. They keep us safe for now, but deep inside us, the tiny changes keep building. Natural selection is still at work, just in ways our ancestors could never have dreamed. Inside every living thing, there is a quiet hum of life that never stops. It is not the sound of your heartbeat or your breath, but something even smaller and more patient. It is the whisper of your DNA, busy at work inside every cell of your body. This tiny code tells your body how to grow, how to heal, and how to carry the traits passed down by those who came before you. Each time your body makes new cells, it must copy this code. It does this millions of times every day. Not only when you grow, but also when you repair a cut, fight an illness, or simply live another day. These copies are careful, but not perfect. Sometimes small mistakes slip in. These little changes are called mutations. They are nature's tiny experiments happening quietly inside you and every living thing around you. Most mutations do not do anything at all. They are like extra letters in a word that you can still read easily. Some mutations are harmful. They might cause illnesses or weaknesses that make life harder. But once in a while, a tiny error makes a body stronger or better suited to its world. It might help someone resist a new disease. It might help a person's blood handle certain foods. It might even prepare the next generation for a world that does not exist yet. This is how evolution keeps going, even when life feels safe and comfortable. Our modern world softens many of nature's hardest lessons. Medicine, shelter, clean water, and warm clothes all protect us from hunger, cold, and disease. But none of these things stop mutations from happening deep inside us. DNA never sleeps. It keeps copying and changing, adding tiny twists and turns to our story. Imagine a family that has lived for hundreds of years in the same valley. Their bodies may have slowly adapted to the cold winds and the thin mountain air. A mutation that helps blood carry more oxygen could spread through the family over generations. Even if that family later moves to a warm lowland, the small changes in their DNA stay with them. They carry the past inside them, ready to pass it on. Now think about the world today. Families move from place to place more than ever before. They travel across oceans and settle in new lands. Different genes meet and mix. Mutations that once stayed in one small group can spread across entire continents. New combinations appear, some helpful, some silent, some waiting for the right moment to matter. You carry so many of these tiny changes inside you. They tell stories about where your ancestors lived, what they faced, and how they survived. Some mutations show up in things you can see, like the color of your eyes or your hair. Others hide deep in your cells, affecting how your body handles sugar, fights infections, or reacts to medicine. Scientists now know that DNA can do even more than they once believed. Sometimes, a gene does not need to change to make a difference. The way a gene is used can shift because of how you live. Stress, diet, and even where you live can switch genes on or off, like flicking tiny lights inside your cells. Some of these switches can even be passed down to your children, leaving echoes of your life in their DNA. This is why no two people are exactly the same, even if they share the same parents. Siblings look alike, but they are built from slightly different copies of their family's code. Each new child is a fresh roll of the dice, a blend of old stories and new surprises. Over many generations, these tiny differences add up, layer by layer, until a whole population begins to change. Sometimes mutations bring sudden changes that catch everyone's attention. A new disease appears, and some people survive because of a rare gene. That gene may spread quickly through the population because it helps people live long enough to have children of their own. Other times, mutations drift through families for centuries, waiting for the world to shift in a way that makes them useful. DNA's quiet work never ends. While you sleep, it hums along, keeping you alive and passing tiny changes forward. Some of these changes will never matter. Some might help your children or their children's children face a challenge you cannot see now. This is the secret strength of life, its willingness to keep trying new things, even when the world feels safe and still. So as you lie warm and safe tonight, remember that deep inside you, a patient story keeps unfolding. You are not frozen in time. You are a living part of something ancient that never stops moving. DNA never sleeps. It carries the past, shapes the present, and quietly reaches for tomorrow, one tiny change at a time. Epigenetics, genes that listen. Listen. Deep inside every cell of your body lives a tiny library. This library holds all the instructions that tell your body how to grow, heal, and survive. These instructions are called your genes. They are passed down to you from your parents, who received them from their parents, and so on, reaching back through hundreds of generations. For a long time, people believed these genes were like a stone carving, fixed, unchanging, locked in place forever. But now we know there is more to the story. Scientists discovered that our genes are not silent stone. They can listen. They can change how they work depending on the world around us. This idea is called epigenetics. It means that your DNA code stays the same, but the way your body reads that code can shift. Imagine a bookshelf lined with books. The books never move, but which ones you take down and read can change from day to day. In the same way, your body can choose which genes to switch on and which to keep closed, depending on what you need. This does not mean your genes rewrite themselves. The letters of your DNA stay in the same order, but tiny tags, like sticky notes, attach themselves to your genes. These notes can tell a gene, now is not the time for you to work, or it is time for you to turn on. These changes happen quietly, all the time, as your body responds to the food you eat, the air you breathe, the stress you feel, and the love and care you receive. Think about a seed planted in two different gardens. The seed carries the same blueprint for roots, stems, and flowers, but in one garden, the soil is rich and full of nutrients. The sun is gentle, the rain comes often, and the wind is calm. In the other garden, the soil is rocky, the sun too strong, and water is scarce. The same seed will grow differently in each place because it listens to its surroundings. Your genes work in a similar way. If you grow up in a warm, loving home with plenty of good food, your body listens to these gentle messages. If you face hunger, fear, or stress for many years, your body listens to that too. It may turn on genes that help you store fat or fight off infections more fiercely. These small changes can help you adapt to your life, but they come at a cost, sometimes shaping how healthy you feel today and tomorrow. The most surprising thing about epigenetics is that these changes can echo forward. Some of the tiny tags on your DNA can be passed to your children. Imagine that. The life you live, the choices you make, the struggles you face, they may leave tiny marks that whisper to the next generation how to prepare for what the world might bring. One famous example comes from a small town in Europe long ago. During a harsh winter, families ran out of food and many went hungry. Children who grew up during that famine showed changes in how their bodies stored fat and used sugar. Decades later, when those children became parents and grandparents, scientists noticed that their grandchildren often showed the same changes, even though they never faced a famine themselves. The bodies of those grandchildren remembered what their grandparents had survived and stayed prepared, just in case it ever happened again. This does not mean every moment of your life will echo forever. Many changes in gene activity fade as your life moves on, but some stick like tiny notes tucked into the margins of your DNA. They remind your cells how your family once adapted to survive. They show that evolution is not just about the big changes that take thousands of years, but also about the small, quiet adjustments that help us face today's world. Epigenetics teaches us something comforting too. It means you are not locked into every part of your family's past. How you live, what you eat, how you care for your body and mind, how you handle stress can help your genes choose what to read and what to rest. A healthy habit, a walk in the fresh air, a moment of calm with someone you love, these simple things can shape the whispers that drift through your DNA. So tonight, as you drift to sleep, remember that your body is listening. Your genes are not set in stone. They pay attention to your life, your joys, your fears, and your dreams. They adjust, softly, quietly, passing along gentle messages that may touch tomorrow in ways you cannot yet see. You are part of an old story, but you also help write the next lines with each breath you take and each choice you make. You are living proof that the past, present, and future are always connected, deep down where your DNA keeps listening and life keeps moving forward. When we think about evolution, we often imagine ancient bones, fossils locked away in stone, or faraway creatures that lived millions of years ago. But sometimes, the proof that we are still changing is right inside our own mouths. One of the clearest examples of this quiet shift is our wisdom teeth, those tricky back molars that can cause pain, swelling, and surprise trips to the dentist. Long ago, our early human ancestors needed these extra teeth. Their lives were hard, and their diets were rough. They chewed tough roots, raw meat, and coarse grains that wore down their teeth quickly. Teeth broke or fell out. Having an extra set of molars waiting to grow in was nature's way of giving them another chance to keep eating and stay strong. Our ancestors also had bigger jaws to hold all these teeth. Their wide, strong jaws could make room for the wisdom teeth to come in without trouble. But as time passed, humans began to change the way they ate. They learned to cook food over fire, making it softer and easier to chew. They ground grains into flour and used tools to cut meat into small pieces. Their diets became less harsh, and their teeth did not wear down as fast. With less need for such big jaws, human skulls slowly became smaller, Over thousands of years, our faces grew flatter, our chins changed shape, and our jaws shrank just enough to make room for our larger brains. But the wisdom teeth did not get the message right away. They kept appearing, pushing through gums that no longer had the space to welcome them. Today, many people have wisdom teeth that come in crooked or get stuck under the gum line. Dentists call this impacted teeth. Impacted wisdom teeth can cause infections, swelling, and pain. This is why millions of people have their wisdom teeth removed each year. But here's where the story gets interesting. Not everyone grows wisdom teeth anymore. Scientists and dentists have noticed that in some parts of the world, more and more people are born without them. This is a tiny sign that evolution is still at work inside us. Over time, humans who do not grow these unnecessary molars may have an easier time eating, speaking, and staying healthy. They do not face the risk of infections or the pain of impacted teeth. Because of this, the genes linked to missing wisdom teeth may slowly become more common in future generations. Our jaws are still changing too. Researchers who study human skulls over time have seen that our jaws continue to shrink little by little. Softer diets play a big part. Many of us eat foods that require very little chewing compared to what our ancient ancestors ate. Think of how different it is to eat a bowl of soup and bread instead of tough raw plants or meat. This shift means that our jaws do not need to be as big or as strong. Modern habits make a difference too. Some researchers believe that the way we feed babies today, with soft purees and bottle feeding, may also play a role. Babies who do not use their jaws as much early on may grow up with smaller jaws. Over time, tiny changes like these can add up, shaping the way our faces look and how our teeth fit. It is amazing to think that something as simple as what we eat can guide our evolution. It reminds us that change does not always come from sudden disasters or giant leaps. Sometimes it comes from small shifts in daily life, the food we choose, the tools we use, and the habits we pass down. Our bodies listen to these changes, adapting little by little, one generation at a time. So, the next time you hear about wisdom teeth, remember that they are more than a dental problem. They are living proof that evolution never stopped. They are a sign that even in our busy modern world, our bodies keep adjusting to the lives we build for ourselves. Maybe in the distant future, no one will grow wisdom teeth at all. Jaws may continue to shrink, fitting perfectly with the soft, easy foods that fill our tables now. This story of wisdom teeth is just one small reminder that nature is never still. Your body is a work in progress, shaped by choices made thousands of years ago and choices you make today. Every bite you take, every meal you share, leaves a tiny mark on the path that evolution walks with you. Even as you lie quietly at night, your DNA remembers the past and waits for tomorrow, ready to shape what comes next, one small change at a time. Tadon, the lactose tolerance case. Sometimes evolution shows itself in the most ordinary places. One of the clearest examples of how humans are still changing can be found in something as simple as a glass of milk. Many people around the world can pour a cup of milk, drink it, and feel fine. But for millions of others, that same glass of milk can bring stomach aches, bloating, and discomfort. This difference is not just about taste. It is a story written in our DNA, a story of how human culture and evolution work together, shaping each other over time. When we are babies, almost every human body makes an enzyme called lactase. This enzyme's job is to help us digest lactose, the natural sugar found in milk. Babies need this because milk is their first and only food. Mother's milk gives them the fat, sugar, and nutrients they need to grow strong and healthy. But in the distant past, when babies grew into young children, their bodies would stop making so much lactase. This made sense. Once a child stopped nursing, they no longer needed to drink milk, so the body did not waste energy making an enzyme it did not use. For most mammals, this is still true. Kittens do not drink milk from a saucer in the wild. Calves stop drinking from their mothers and move on to grass. Nature planned it this way for thousands of generations, but humans are different. Thousands of years ago, in different parts of the world, people learned how to raise animals like cows, goats, and sheep. They discovered that these animals gave more than meat or hides. They produced milk, which could be collected and shared. In places with long winters or dry seasons, fresh milk was a valuable source of food when crops failed or other food was hard to find. But there was a problem. Adults who tried to drink milk often felt sick. Their bodies could not handle the lactose because the gene for making lactase had already turned off. In some people, though, a tiny change in their DNA allowed the lactase gene to stay switched on for life. These people could drink milk as adults without getting sick. They could get more nutrition from milk than their neighbors could. They were more likely to stay healthy during hard times and pass on their genes, and that tiny change spread. This is how evolution works alongside culture. Humans did not grow up drinking milk from other animals until they learned how to domesticate them. Culture created the habit, and nature responded with a change that helped some people thrive. Scientists call this lactase persistence. It means your body keeps making lactase, the enzyme that digests milk sugar, long after you stop being a baby. Today, about 1/3 of all adults in the world can drink milk without trouble. But where you live and where your family came from makes a big difference. In parts of Northern Europe, the Middle East, and East Africa, lactase persistence is common. In some of these places, more than 90% of adults can drink milk. In places where dairy farming was not common in the past, such as parts of East Asia, South America, and some areas in Africa, most adults are still lactose intolerant. What makes this story so amazing is how quickly it happened in evolutionary terms. Many changes in our bodies take thousands or even millions of years to show up, but the ability to digest milk as an adult spread through some populations in just a few thousand years. That is very fast when you think about how slow evolution usually moves. It is also a reminder that our bodies and our cultures are always connected. We do not just shape our world shapes us. When humans learned to raise cows and goats, they created a new food source. This new habit opened the door for nature to favor people with genes that allowed them to use that food fully. Today, modern grocery stores are filled with dairy products, milk, cheese, butter, yogurt, and ice cream. Many people take it for granted that they can enjoy these foods without worry. But for those whose ancestors never developed lactase persistence, a bowl of ice cream or a tall glass of milk can still cause discomfort. This is not a weakness, it is simply another path that evolution did not need to take in every place. Scientists continue to study how this trait spreads and why some groups developed it faster than others. They look at ancient bones, milk residues on pottery, and even old farming tools to piece together this puzzle. Each discovery reminds us that we are still works in progress. So the next time you pour milk over your cereal or sip coffee with cream, remember this quiet wonder. That simple drink holds proof that humans keep changing even today. A tiny shift in our DNA, shaped by the choice to keep animals close and share their milk, still lives in us. It shows that culture and nature are partners in our story. It shows that evolution is not finished. It is patient and curious, always listening to the way we live and always ready to help us change, one small sip at a time. Sometimes we forget that traits we think of as normal are actually quite new in the story of humankind. Blue eyes are one of those surprises. They have not always been here. In fact, scientists believe that blue eyes did not even exist until about 6,000 to 10,000 years ago, which is not long at all when you think about how long people have been walking the earth. For most of human history, everyone had dark eyes, shades of brown that helped protect against the strong rays of the sun. Dark eyes full of melanin were a good match for life under open skies. They kept eyes safe from bright light and harsh sun. But then something changed. One tiny change in our DNA opened the door for a new color to appear. Scientists have traced this shift back to a single common ancestor. Somewhere near the Black Sea region, one person was born with a small mutation in the gene that controls how much melanin the eye produces. This tiny switch turned the volume down, so to speak, so the eyes did not grow dark brown, but instead stayed a lighter shade. With less melanin, light scattered through the layers of the iris, making eyes look blue. It is a trick of the light rather than blue pigment. Imagine how remarkable that must have been. One child born with eyes the color of the morning sky, while everyone else's eyes were dark as the soil, or deep green like a forest. That child would have looked different, catching the light in a new way. People may have noticed and wondered, and when that child grew up and had children of their own, the gene could be passed down. Over time, more people inherited that tiny change. The trait spread from family to family, village to village, traveling like a quiet ripple through generations. This is a good reminder that evolution does not always move at the pace of glaciers. Some traits can spread surprisingly fast when they do not harm survival, or when people prefer them for some reason. No one fully knows why blue eyes became so common in parts of Europe. Some scientists think people found light-colored eyes interesting or attractive, so they chose partners who had them. Over time, families with blue-eyed children grew, and the gene continued its slow journey outward. Others think there could have been practical reasons too. In places with less sunlight, lighter eyes might have helped people see better during long, dim winters. Less melanin means more light enters the eye, which could have been helpful in darker climates where the sun stayed low in the sky. Blue eyes are also connected to other changes in our DNA. They are linked to the genes that affect skin and hair color. This is why people with blue eyes often have lighter hair and skin. These traits likely drifted together as people moved north into cooler places with weaker sunlight. Lighter skin helped their bodies make enough vitamin D when the sun's rays were scarce, so people who carried these traits may have had an advantage in northern climates. Today, blue eyes are still rare on a global scale. Only about 8 to 10% of the world's population has them, but in some parts of northern and eastern Europe, they are much more common, even the most common eye color in certain regions. Think of places like Finland, Estonia, and parts of Scandinavia, where you might walk through a city and see blue eyes everywhere you look. It is amazing to think that a small twist in a gene, passed down through thousands of years, could color millions of eyes today. It is also a reminder that evolution is not finished. It continues to try out new things, sometimes in quiet ways we barely notice. Look into a mirror and notice your own eyes. What color are they? Behind that color is a map of your family's past. Who traveled where, who stayed close to home, who mixed with new people along the way. Each shade holds clues about how your ancestors adapted to the places they lived. Blue eyes are proof that evolution does not just shape our bones and muscles, it paints our faces too. giving us the tiny details that make each of us unique. One small change in a single person long ago now lives in millions of people all around the world. A simple, beautiful example of how traits can appear, spread, and stay. So as you rest tonight, remember that your eyes, no matter their color, hold a story that goes back much further than you can see. A story of ancient sunlight, of journeys across rivers and mountains, of tiny changes that catch the light in new ways. Even the smallest detail, like the color of an eye, is proof that our bodies are always listening, always adapting, always ready to carry something new forward into tomorrow. Disease resistance. When we think about evolution, we often picture bones and fossils, or the shape of our bodies changing over time. But one of the clearest ways humans are still evolving is in how our bodies fight disease. Our DNA holds small secrets that help some people survive illnesses that once wiped out entire villages. These tiny clues remind us that nature's tests never really go away, they simply take new forms. One well-known example of this is the sickle cell trait. Long ago, in parts of Africa where malaria was, and still is, common, a small change appeared in the gene that helps make hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is the part of your blood that carries oxygen. In people with the sickle cell mutation, some of their red blood cells change shape under stress. They bend into stiff, curved shapes that look like tiny sickles, the tool once used to cut grain. By itself, having sickle-shaped cells can cause problems. When someone inherits this trait from both parents, it can lead to sickle cell disease, which can make life difficult and sometimes short. But when someone inherits the sickle cell gene from only one parent, they have what is called sickle cell trait. This means they do not have full-blown sickle cell disease, but they do have just enough of the trait to help them resist malaria. Malaria is a disease spread by mosquitoes that can cause high fevers, chills, and even death. It attacks the red blood cells, but in people with sickle cell trait, the malaria parasite struggles to survive. This tiny advantage means that people with the trait are more likely to survive in places where malaria is common. They can grow up, have children, and pass the helpful gene to the next generation. This is natural selection at work. Even though the sickle cell gene can cause problems in areas where malaria is a constant threat, the benefit of surviving malaria outweighs the cost. This shows how nature sometimes balances good and bad traits together. A mutation that might be harmful in one place or time can be helpful in another. The story of the sickle cell gene is a reminder that disease is one of the strongest forces guiding evolution. Another example of how our genes help us fight disease is found in a mutation called CCR5 delta 32. This tiny change in a gene affects a doorway that some viruses use to enter our cells. People who have 2 copies of this mutation are resistant to certain strains of HIV, the virus that causes AIDS. This means the virus cannot easily attach and spread through their bodies. Scientists think this gene mutation became common in parts of Europe centuries ago, possibly during outbreaks of other deadly diseases like smallpox or the plague. Those who carried the mutation were more likely to survive and pass the gene on to their children. Even though HIV is a much newer disease, this old mutation gives some people protection today. Our bodies hold these hidden shields against disease, but the fight never really ends. New diseases appear, and our DNA must keep finding ways to protect us. In recent years, the COVID-19 pandemic swept around the world, changing daily life for billions of people. Some people got very sick, while others had mild cases or none at all. Scientists have found that certain genes may help explain why. These genes can affect how strongly the immune system responds, how the lungs fight infection, or how the body handles inflammation. It is too soon to know exactly how COVID-19 might shape human evolution in the long run, but in the past, major diseases have left marks on our DNA. Plague, smallpox, flu, and other epidemics shaped which genes survived. If a new disease keeps spreading for generations, our bodies will keep searching for new ways to fight back. Tiny mutations might appear, drift through families, and give future children a better chance to resist infection. Disease does not just push evolution backward, it can also push us forward by encouraging our minds and cultures to adapt. We invent vaccines, develop new medicines, and learn how to protect each other through science and community care. But under the surface, our genes keep whispering their own plans, changing quietly in response to every new challenge the world brings. When you think about evolution, remember that it is not only about visible traits like height or hair color. Some of its most powerful work happens deep inside you, in how your blood cells behave, or how your immune system defends you from threats you cannot even see. These small battles are happening every day, whether you know it or not. So as you drift to sleep tonight, remember the millions of tiny warriors inside you, cells, genes, and proteins that stand guard day and night. They carry old lessons from ancestors who survived ancient diseases and new ideas for how to face tomorrow's illnesses. They remind us that evolution never sleeps. It waits, listens, and adapts, always searching for ways to help life survive. In this quiet work, your DNA keeps writing the next chapter of the story, one tiny change at a time. Our gut microbes evolve too. And our gut microbes evolve too. When you think about evolution, you might picture ancient fossils, wild animals changing shape over thousands of years, or humans adapting to cold and heat. But there is another story of evolution happening much closer than you might think. It happens inside you every single day. Deep in your belly, you carry a hidden world made up of trillions of tiny living things. These are your gut microbes, tiny bacteria, fungi, and other microscopic life that call your intestines home. We often forget they are there. They do not make any noise. They do not demand your attention like a growling stomach does. But they do important work that keeps you healthy. Your gut microbes help you break down the food you eat. They help your body take in nutrients and make vitamins you cannot make on your own. They train your immune system to fight off harmful germs. They even talk to your brain through chemical signals, helping to shape your mood, hunger, and energy. Just like every other living thing, these tiny microbes change over time. They adapt to your lifestyle, your food, the places you live, and even the medicines you take. This means evolution is happening right inside you. It never stops. It never sleeps. Think about your diet. The foods you eat feed not just you, but your gut microbes too. If you eat a lot of fiber like fruits, vegetables, and whole grains, certain helpful bacteria thrive. They love to munch on the fibers you cannot digest on your own. They break them down into simple parts your body can use. If you mostly eat processed foods, sugars, and fats, different types of bacteria start to grow instead. Your gut community changes to match what you feed it. This can happen surprisingly fast. Scientists have found that people who switch their diets, for example, from mostly meat to mostly plant-based, can see changes in their gut microbes in just a few days. These microbes divide and multiply quickly, sometimes doubling in number every few hours. As they do, tiny genetic changes slip in, the ones that help them survive better on the new foods spread through the community. In this way, your gut bacteria evolve alongside you. Medicine affects these tiny helpers too. When you take antibiotics to fight an infection, the medicine does not just kill the bad bacteria making you sick, it can also kill many of the good bacteria living peacefully in your gut. But some bacteria survive. Maybe they have a tiny mutation that helps them resist the antibiotic. These survivors multiply, passing their helpful trait to the next generation. This is evolution in action, right inside you. It is called antibiotic resistance. Around the world, it is becoming one of the biggest health challenges we face. As more bacteria learn to survive our strongest medicines, infections that were once easy to treat can become dangerous again. Sometimes, these resistant bacteria share their secrets with other bacteria. They swap bits of DNA like trading cards. One tiny piece of genetic code can make the difference between being wiped out by a medicine or living to multiply and spread. This means your gut is not just home to bacteria, it is also a classroom where bacteria teach each other how to adapt. Your environment plays a part too, where you live, what you touch, the water you drink, and the people you share your life with all shape your gut microbes. If you move to a new country or travel for long periods, your gut community can change to fit the new surroundings. Babies even pick up their first microbes from their mothers and the world around them. This early gift shapes how their tiny bodies learn to digest food and fight germs. Scientists are only beginning to understand how much these tiny life forms affect us. Some researchers believe that changes in our gut bacteria could be linked to health problems like obesity, diabetes, allergies, and even depression. This means that as we change our world with modern food, new medicines, and new ways of living, we change our inner world too. The story of your gut microbes is a quiet reminder that you are never alone. You are home to an entire community of life that evolves with you. They have been with you since you were born, and they will stay with you every day. They listen to what you eat, they respond to how you treat your body, they adapt to the challenges you face. So the next time you sit down for a meal, think of all the tiny mouths you are feeding. When you wash your hands or take your medicine, remember that you are shaping more than just your own body. You are guiding the evolution of trillions of tiny passengers, each playing their part in your story. Your gut microbes are living proof that evolution is not just about ancient bones buried in rock. It is alive and well, right now, deep inside you. One meal, one pill, one choice at a time. You and your microbes drift forward together, changing, adapting, and reminding us that life's quiet wonders are sometimes found in the smallest places of all. When you hear the word evolution, you might think of the past. You might picture early humans huddled around a fire, or ancient creatures crawling onto dry land for the first time. But evolution does not only live in the distant past, it is here with us, right now, moving through every part of our modern world. One of the biggest questions people ask today is this: does modern life help evolution continue, or does it slow it down? One reason this question is so interesting is because humans have invented so many clever tools to protect each other from the harsh edges of nature. These tools, big and small, change what traits stay in our gene pool. Glasses are a simple example. Long ago, poor eyesight could be dangerous. Imagine trying to hunt for food or watch for predators if you could not see clearly. You might trip, get lost, or miss the sign of danger. Bad eyesight would make life shorter and might keep someone from passing on their genes. But today, if you have blurry vision, you just slip on a pair of glasses, or you get contact lenses or laser surgery. Suddenly, what used to be a risky trait is no longer a big deal. The genes for nearsightedness or farsightedness can stay in families because our inventions cushion them. Think about dental care too. Our ancestors had stronger jaws and tougher teeth because they chewed rough, raw food all day long. But as our diets softened with cooking and farming, our teeth faced new problems. Cavities, overcrowding, and tooth loss became common. If you lost too many teeth long ago, it could be hard to eat enough to stay healthy. But now we have fillings, braces, and implants. A crooked bite does not stop anyone from living a full life. The genes behind smaller jaws and crowded teeth are passed down, gently protected by dentists and new technology. Then there is the wonder of modern medicine. One example is IVF, which stands for in vitro fertilization. Some people have trouble having children naturally, but IVF and other fertility treatments can help them grow their families. Without this technology, some of the traits linked to infertility might not be passed down, but because we now have the tools to help, these traits can stay in our gene pool. Technology holds open doors that nature might have quietly closed. Even how we find love and build families has changed. For most of human history, people found partners in their own villages or through families and friends. The people you met were the people you lived close to. But today, technology brings strangers together from opposite sides of the world. Dating apps and websites connect people who might never have crossed paths otherwise. Someone who lives in a small town can fall in love with someone from a big city, far away. Genes that once stayed in one place now travel across borders and oceans. This mixing of genes means more diversity, which can be good for the health of future generations. It brings together new combinations that can help us face unexpected challenges. But it also means that traits which once faded out in certain places can find new life when they mix with others. Culture plays its own part. As we create tools to soften life's edges, we change what traits matter most. In a world where strength and speed once decided who survived, now cleverness, creativity, and adaptability can carry someone forward. We build machines to lift heavy loads. We invent apps to remind us what to do next. We create vaccines to fight diseases that once shaped entire family trees. Modern life shapes our bodies too. Think of how many people now spend hours sitting at desks or looking down at screens. Some scientists wonder if these habits might one day affect how our backs, necks, or even our eyes evolve. The foods we eat, the way we move or do not move, and the stress we carry all create gentle pressures that our bodies quietly respond to. Of course, not every invention makes life easier for everyone. Some tools and habits come with hidden costs. Overusing antibiotics has helped create superbugs, bacteria that resist our strongest medicines. Modern foods, full of sugar and fat, can lead to health problems our ancestors never faced. These challenges remind us that our clever ideas can change the direction of evolution in ways we do not always expect. In the end, modern life does not stop evolution. It simply changes the questions that nature asks us. Instead of asking, "Can you see well enough to hunt?" it might ask, "Can you adapt to a world of screens?" Instead of asking, "Can you run fast enough to escape danger?" it might ask, "Can your body handle the stress and food of today's world?" So when you slip on your glasses, brush your teeth, or swipe through photos of people you might date, remember that you are living proof of how technology and culture shape our story. They protect traits that might once have vanished. They bring people together in new ways. They remind us that evolution is not frozen in the past. It is right here with us, quietly listening, changing, and weaving each new choice into the long, unfolding story of who we are and who we might yet become. It is a big question. one that comes up often when people wonder if we humans have stepped outside the rules of nature. Does modern life cancel natural selection? Have we built a world so safe and clever that traits that once would have quietly faded away now stay with us? And if so, is that good, bad, or simply different? Long ago, natural selection was a strong force that touched every living thing. A person who could not see well might not spot danger or find enough food. A child born with a serious illness or a weakness often did not survive long enough to grow up and have children. Life was full of sharp edges. Storms, hunger, wild animals, and disease all made survival hard. Those who did not have traits that fit well with their environment often did not pass on their genes. In this way, natural selection shaped us, generation by generation, helping life find what worked best for each place and time. But the human story took a unique turn. We did not just accept what nature gave us, we started changing the world around us to protect each other. Fire warmed our cold nights, shelters kept out wind and rain, tools made hunting and gathering safer. Over time, these inventions became more powerful. Medicine arrived, turning once deadly infections into something we could treat with a few pills. Vaccines stopped diseases that once killed millions. Doctors and nurses learned how to mend broken bones, fix hearts, and help babies survive who would once have been too small or sick to make it. In doing all this, we softened the harsh edges of natural selection. We built a safety net under ourselves. Poor eyesight does not stop someone from living a full life. A simple pair of glasses fixes that. A child born with a genetic disease can grow up and live decades longer than they would have in the past. Fertility treatments like IVF help people have children who might not have been able to naturally. In many ways, we have given nature's quiet rules new pathways to follow. Does this mean we are canceling natural selection? Not exactly. Natural selection is never fully gone because life still faces challenges. Diseases still appear, new viruses spread and test our immune systems. Stress, pollution, diet, and new lifestyles shape which traits help us thrive or struggle. But it is true that many traits that might once have faded away now remain. Our care, our tools, and our kindness allow people with all kinds of differences to live, love, and have families. Some people wonder if this is good or bad, but maybe the better question is whether good and bad really fit here at all. Evolution does not judge, it simply notices what works for survival in each moment, and what works changes as our world changes. In the past, a strong body might have been the best chance of survival. Today, a clever mind, a gentle heart, or a supportive community can matter just as much. One way to look at this is to see how our choices reflect what we value. We choose to care for each other. We build hospitals and invent treatments because we believe every life has worth. Our culture has become part of our evolutionary story. In other animals, natural selection works through sharp teeth, swift legs, or thick fur. In humans, it also works through compassion, knowledge, and cooperation. There is another side to this question too. By softening some of nature's old tests, we sometimes create new ones. For example, Audix too much has helped bacteria evolve to resist them. People living longer lives means we see more diseases of aging, like cancer or dementia, which now shape how families cope and adapt. Our modern comforts can bring hidden costs, like health problems connected to too much processed food or too little movement. These are gentle pressures that may guide evolution in quiet ways for generations to come. So are we canceling natural selection? Not really. We are reshaping it. We are giving nature new puzzles to solve. through our choices and inventions, and while some old challenges fade, new ones take their place. The difference is that now we can watch this happen and make decisions about what we want for our future. We can choose to care for each other, to share knowledge, and to use science wisely. As you drift off tonight, think of how remarkable this is. The same human spirit that once learned to shape a sharp stone tool now shapes genetic medicine, vaccines, and surgeries that save lives. Our compassion and creativity have become tools too. We may carry genes today that once would have disappeared, but we also carry the power to choose what kind of world we want those genes to grow in. In the end, maybe the answer is simple. We are not canceling natural selection. We are living alongside it, helping it find new paths through our kindness and our care. And that is not good or bad. It is just beautifully human. Genetic drift in action. When we think about how humans change over time, we often picture natural selection, choosing the traits that help us survive. But there is another quiet force in evolution that works alongside it: genetic drift. Unlike natural selection, which favors traits that help us live and grow, genetic drift happens because of chance. It is like the wind blowing seeds across a field. Where they land and grow is not always planned, but each seed changes the shape of the field in its own small way. One of the clearest examples of genetic drift is called the founder effect. This happens when a small group of people breaks away from a larger group and starts a new community. Imagine a tiny band of families leaving their village to settle on a faraway island. They carry with them only a small part of the gene pool from the place they came from. The genes they bring become the starting point for everyone who will be born there in the future. Because the group is so small, chance plays a big role. A rare gene that might have been unusual in the larger group can suddenly become common in the new community. Maybe one of the settlers has a unique eye color, a special way their body processes certain foods, or even a higher risk for a certain disease. If they have many children, that gene may spread quickly. Over generations, this small group can develop traits that make them different from their relatives back home. Islands are perfect places to see the founder effect in action. They are natural pockets of isolation, surrounded by water that keeps people from easily moving in and out. Take the people of Iceland, for example. Iceland was settled by just a few hundred people over 1,000 years ago. The island's rough seas and cold weather kept them mostly separate from the rest of Europe. Over time, the genes of those early settlers shaped the whole population. Today, Icelanders have a few rare genetic quirks that help doctors there study diseases. Scientists look at Iceland's gene pool to understand how traits drift when people live apart for centuries. Another example is found among the Amish in North America. Long ago, small groups of Amish families settled far from other communities. They preferred to marry within their own group, which kept their gene pool limited. As a result, certain rare genetic conditions became more common among the Amish than in the general population. Doctors have learned much from studying these patterns, and the Amish communities have helped shape treatments for these conditions. Genetic drift can also be seen in isolated mountain villages, desert tribes, or remote forest communities. When people stay in one place for many generations, rarely marrying outside their group, their genes tell a unique story. They carry hints of old migrations, famines, plagues, and chance events that left some families larger than others. Sometimes, genetic drift brings helpful traits. Sometimes, it makes certain diseases more common. Either way, it shows how powerful chance can be in shaping who we are. It is important to remember that genetic drift does not care whether a trait is useful or harmful. It is not about survival or advantage. It is about luck and numbers. In large populations, these random changes are washed out by the sheer number of people mixing their genes. But in small groups, chance can have a bigger voice. One family with many children might spread a rare gene far and wide, while another family's genes might disappear altogether. This is one reason why scientists treasure studying small, isolated communities. Their genes are like a time capsule. They help us understand how humans moved, settled, and adapted to life in far-flung places. By comparing genes from different places, we can see how our ancestors faced ice ages, droughts, and migrations that scattered us across the globe. Even today, genetic drift is at work. As some small communities stay close-knit, they continue to drift away from the larger populations around them. Meanwhile, in our modern world, many people travel and mix their genes more than ever before. This big mixing pot helps balance out some of the effects of genetic drift, but the smaller stories still shine through. If you have ever wondered why certain rare conditions appear more in some families or regions, genetic drift might be the reason. It is a reminder that evolution is not just a story of survival of the fittest. Sometimes it is a story of survival of the luckiest, or simply the ones who are in the right place at the right time. As you settle into sleep tonight, think about how each of us carries tiny clues about our past in our blood and bones. We are shaped not only by the great forces of nature, but also by the small rolls of the dice that echo through generations. In quiet valleys, on faraway islands, or in the hidden corners of big cities, chance keeps weaving its thread into the story of who we are, one small drift at a time. When people hear the word evolution, they often think only about physical traits, things like height, skin color, or whether you have wisdom teeth. But the human story is not just about bones and bodies, it is also about our minds. One of the gentlest puzzles in modern science is called the Flynn effect. It shows that on average, human IQ scores have risen steadily over the last 100 years in many parts of the world. The Flynn effect is named after James Flynn, a researcher who noticed this pattern in the 1980s. He was curious about how people did on IQ tests over time. When he looked back at old test results, he found something surprising. People who took IQ tests in the early 1900s scored lower than people who took the same tests decades later. This did not mean people back then were less intelligent. It simply meant that average scores were going up over generations. At first glance, this seems strange. Our genes do not change much in just a few decades. Evolution usually works slowly, passing tiny changes forward over many generations. So if our DNA has not changed that quickly, what explains the steady rise in IQ scores? Scientists have spent years trying to answer this question. One reason might be better health. A long time ago, many people grew up without enough food or clean water. Children often faced illnesses that today are rare or easily treated. A sick body means a growing brain does not always get what it needs. As medicine improved and people began to eat more balanced diets, children's brains could grow strong and healthy. When brains get the right fuel, they can do more complex thinking and problem solving. Another reason could be education. 100 years ago, not every child went to school for long. Many families needed children to work on farms or in factories. Today, in most parts of the world, children spend many years in school. They learn math, reading, and how to think through tricky problems. They practice taking tests and puzzles similar to what they see on IQ exams. This does not mean they are smarter by nature. It means they have more chances to sharpen the skills those tests measure. Modern life itself might also play a part. In the past, most people lived in small villages or farms and did work that was physical and repetitive. Today, many jobs and daily tasks require different kinds of thinking. People learn to use technology, follow instructions, and adapt to new information. We build habits that train our brains to spot patterns, solve puzzles, and think about abstract ideas. These are the same kinds of thinking skills that IQ tests look for. Some scientists wonder if families are also raising children differently. Parents today often talk and read to their babies more than they did in the past. They ask children questions and encourage them to explain their thoughts. This helps young brains build connections that make problem solving easier later in life. Still, the Flynn effect is not simple. In recent years, some countries have seen these rising scores slow down or even dip a little. No one fully knows why. Maybe our modern world has reached a point where improvements in health and education are leveling off, or maybe new challenges like too much screen time, poor sleep, or stress are quietly testing our brains in ways we do not yet understand. Is the Flynn effect really evolution? Most scientists say no, at least not in the sense of our genes changing rapidly. It is more likely a reflection of how our environment, habits, and daily lives shape the way we think, but it is still a powerful reminder that our minds are flexible. They respond to the world we create. When we build communities that value learning, care for our health, and encourage curiosity, our brains have more space to grow. The Flynn effect also shows how tricky it is to measure something like intelligence. IQ tests look for certain types of problem-solving skills, but they do not capture every way a mind can be smart. A child who can fix a broken radio or memorize the shape of the stars might not get a high score on a standard test, but that does not mean their brain is not remarkable. As you drift to sleep tonight, think about how your brain is shaped by the world around you. Every book you read, every question you ask, every new thing you learn helps your mind stretch and grow. Your parents, teachers, and community all play a part in this hidden evolution of thought. In the end, the Flynn effect is a gentle puzzle. It asks us to wonder what we are capable of when our bodies are healthy, our minds are cared for, and our world challenges us to think in new ways. It reminds us that our story is not just written in our DNA, but also in the choices we make together, choices that help each new generation dream a little bigger than the one before. In modern life's new pressures, we often think of evolution as something that happened long ago, when our ancestors hunted wild animals, made fires in caves, and crossed frozen lands. Back then, life was full of sharp edges. If you could not find food or shelter, you did not survive. If your body could not handle the climate or fight off disease, your genes did not get passed on. The world itself tested every living thing, and only the traits that helped people adapt stayed in the family tree. Today, many of those old pressures feel softer. We have warm homes, easy access to food, and medicine to treat injuries and illnesses that once were deadly. But this does not mean the tests have disappeared. Modern life brings its own challenges. They are quieter, slower, and sometimes harder to see, but they still shape our bodies and our future in ways we are only beginning to understand. Think about the food we eat now. For most of human history, people ate what they could grow, hunt or gather. Food was fresh, simple, and sometimes scarce. People worked hard to find enough. But today, in many places, food is everywhere. We do not have to chase animals or spend hours digging for roots and berries. We can walk into a store and find aisles of packaged meals, sweet drinks, and salty snacks ready to grab and eat. These processed foods taste good and fill our bellies quickly, but they often contain high amounts of sugar, salt, and unhealthy fats that our ancestors never ate in such large amounts. Our bodies are still wired for a world where food was rare and energy had to be stored for lean times. Now, with so much easy to eat food around us, our bodies keep storing that energy, turning it into fat we may not really need. This has led to more people facing problems like obesity, diabetes, and heart disease. These health issues do not just affect one generation, they can shape who is healthy enough to have children and raise families. Some scientists wonder if over time, genes that help people manage sugar or fat better might become more common. Maybe our bodies will slowly adapt to handle the food we now love to eat. Or maybe our habits will keep pushing us toward more health problems, testing our medical knowledge to keep up. Modern life brings other hidden pressures too. Pollution is one of them. The air we breathe, the water we drink, and even the soil where we grow food can carry chemicals that our bodies were never designed to handle. These chemicals can affect our lungs, our hearts, and even our genes. Some pollutants may raise the risk of certain cancers or weaken our immune systems. Others can quietly damage the tiny instructions inside our cells, sometimes passing changes to the next generation. Another pressure comes from the way we move or do not move. Our ancestors spent their days on the move, hunting, gathering, farming, and building. They walked long distances and used their muscles to survive. Today, many of us spend hours sitting at desks, looking at screens, or driving cars. Our bodies were made for motion, but our world now encourages stillness. This can lead to stiff muscles, weak bones, and poor circulation. It can also change how our hearts and brains work over time. Fertility, too, may be shaped by these new pressures. Some studies suggest that exposure to certain chemicals in plastics, pesticides, and pollution can affect how easily some people can have children. Modern stress plays a part as well. Busy schedules, lack of sleep, and constant worry can quietly shift how our bodies handle hormones that are needed for healthy reproduction. This does not mean everyone is in danger or that our bodies are helpless. Evolution is still with us, always listening, always adjusting. Some people's bodies may already handle modern foods, chemicals, or stress better than others. Tiny changes in our DNA drift forward, carried by those who adapt more easily. Over generations, these small advantages can spread through families, shaping what people look like, how they live, and how they thrive in a changing world. The story of modern life's new pressures is not just about problems, it is also about how we can choose to respond. We now understand more about food, pollution, and health than ever before. We can make choices to move our bodies more, eat foods that nourish us, and push for cleaner air and water. In this way, culture and knowledge become part of our survival tools, just as important as sharp spears or warm fires were long ago. As you settle in tonight, remember that evolution is not frozen in time. It never stopped. It flows through your family line like a quiet river, shaped by every meal, every breath, every habit you keep or change. Modern life tests us in ways our ancestors never imagined. And just like them, we keep learning how to face those tests together, one small choice at a time. Climate change, new challenges. If you step outside on a warm afternoon, it may feel like the world has always been just like this, sunny, calm, and familiar. But Earth's climate has never stayed the same for long. It changes slowly and sometimes quickly, shaping the lives of plants, animals, and people in ways big and small. Long ago, our ancestors adapted to ice ages, scorching droughts, and seasons that came and went like the slow breath of the planet. Today, We face a new twist in this old story: climate change driven by human actions. Over the past century, burning coal, oil, and gas has added huge amounts of carbon dioxide to the air. This invisible gas traps heat from the sun like a heavy blanket wrapped around the earth. As a result, temperatures are rising. Winters are not as cold as they once were. Summers bring more heat waves, fires, and storms. Glaciers melt, oceans swell, rivers change their paths, forests burn or shift, and deserts spread into places where grasslands once grew green and thick. At first, it can be hard to see how this connects to human evolution. We have strong roofs over our heads and warm clothes when the wind blows cold. We have air conditioning when the heat comes and heaters when frost settles in. But climate change is not just about feeling too warm or too cold. It reshapes the land beneath our feet and the air we breathe. It decides what plants grow in our fields and which animals can thrive near us. As the climate changes, so do the places where people live. In some places, rising seas threaten to swallow villages and cities built along coastlines. In other places, rivers that once watered crops dry up or flood farmlands with too much rain at once. Some people will move to new lands, just as our ancestors did when ice sheets retreated or forests opened into wide plains. This movement mixes genes and ideas, just as it did thousands of years ago. Warmer temperatures also mean new challenges for our bodies. Insects that carry diseases like malaria and dengue fever are moving into areas where they could not survive before. Ticks, mosquitoes, and parasites find fresh ground in warming regions. Populations that never faced these diseases may find themselves tested in new ways. Over generations, people whose bodies can resist these threats may pass on genes that help their families survive. Food and water may shape us too. As the climate changes, some crops may no longer grow well in places they once did. Farmers will switch to different plants or raise new animals that can handle heat, drought, or floods. Our bodies may adapt slowly to new diets, just as they once did when we learned to farm, or when some people developed the ability to drink milk as adults. In the same way, our immune systems and digestion may shift to handle new kinds of food and water. Some scientists wonder if our bodies may even change to handle the heat. People living in very warm climates often have traits that help them shed heat more easily. Long, lean limbs, darker skin to protect against the sun, and efficient ways to sweat help keep them cool. As more places become hotter for longer, traits like these may spread further, giving some people small advantages in staying healthy and strong. Of course, our minds and culture are also part of this story. Unlike many animals, we do not have to wait for our genes to adapt. We build machines and systems to protect ourselves. We create new crops that grow with less water or richer in nutrients. We share knowledge across the world to help each other stay safe. In this way, human evolution is never just about DNA. It is about what we choose to do with the tools we make and the kindness we show each other. Climate change is a reminder that Earth never stands still. Its rules shift. Its tests come in new forms. Our species survived past changes by moving, mixing, and finding new ways to live together. We will face these new challenges the same way, by listening, learning, and slowly changing in body and mind. In the end, evolution does not promise us an easy path. It does not promise that we will stay the same or that the world will wait for us to catch up. It asks us to notice what works, to care for each other, and to pass forward what helps us thrive. As you drift off to sleep tonight, think of the long line of people who adapted before you, who faced ice and storms, droughts and floods, and found ways to survive. You are part of that line. And though the climate changes again, our story goes on, carried in your bones, your breath, and every small choice you make to care for this ever-shifting world. For most of human history, people were tied closely to the places they were born. Small bands of families moved across valleys and plains, but once they settled in a good spot, near fresh water, fertile soil, or safe caves, they often stayed put for generations. Villages grew into towns. Tribes formed languages, customs, and family lines that stayed woven together for centuries. People mostly married others from nearby. They looked similar, spoke the same words, and passed down their genes within a small circle. But today's world is different. We live in what many call a global mixing pot. Modern travel lets people cross oceans in hours, not months. Families move from country to country for work, school, or a better life. Wars, climate change, and big dreams send millions of people across borders every year. We live in cities where neighbors may come from every corner of the planet. Each time people meet, fall in love, and have children, they blend genes in new ways that would have been nearly impossible in the past. This blending has big effects on how human evolution might unfold. In science, there is a simple truth: more diversity means more possibilities. When people from different places have children together, they bring together genetic variations that may not have met before. These fresh combinations can help us adapt more quickly to new challenges. Imagine two groups of people living far apart for thousands of years. One group might have developed genetic traits that help them handle cold weather and long, dark winters. The other might have traits that protect their skin from strong sunlight or help them fight off local diseases. When people from these two groups come together and have children, those children carry a mix of helpful traits from both sides. Over time, this can make the whole population stronger and more resilient. Migration has always shaped human evolution. Long ago, our ancestors moved out of Africa and spread into new lands. They crossed deserts, climbed mountains, and braved frozen tundras. Each journey brought new challenges. People who settled in snowy forests needed to stay warm and find food during long winters. Those who settled by the equator needed to manage intense sun and heat. Local conditions slowly shaped their bodies, skin, and immune systems. But even back then, these groups did not stay completely apart forever. Trade routes, exploration, and wandering brought distant families together. They exchanged not just goods and ideas, but also genes. Today, that exchange happens faster and more widely than ever. Think of the great port cities of the past, places where merchants, sailors, and travelers from around the world met. These cities were early mixing pots, places where people of different languages, beliefs, and faces built communities together. Now, modern cities are even more connected. Someone born in Africa might marry someone from Europe and raise a family in North America. Their children carry a rich blend of histories in their blood, clues from grandparents and great-grandparents who may have lived continents apart. This genetic diversity can help us handle modern challenges too. Some researchers believe that greater mixing of genes may help populations adapt to new diseases, changing diets, and even climate shifts. A more varied gene pool means more chances that someone has a helpful trait, a better way to digest certain foods, a stronger resistance to a virus, or a heart that works more efficiently in high altitudes. Of course, this blending does not erase the unique beauty of our differences. Dark eyes, light eyes, curly hair, straight hair, tall, short, these traits still tell the story of where our families came from. They remind us that our ancestors survived countless storms, droughts, and trials to pass their gifts to us. Now those gifts meet and mingle with new ones, creating children who are living proof that the human story never stands still. More than ever, our connections remind us how small our world really is. A child born today might speak 2 or 3 languages by the time they start school. They may eat dishes that mix spices and flavors from many homelands. They may celebrate holidays from different faiths, shaped by parents and grandparents who crossed mountains, deserts, and oceans to find each other. In this way, migration is not just about travel, it is about transformation. It shows how humans adapt, not only through struggle, but through love and curiosity too. Each new journey, each new home, each new family we build keeps our species flexible, open to surprises, and ready for tomorrow's challenges. So as you drift to sleep tonight, think about how your own family story carries the marks of journeys and meetings long ago. Maybe your ancestors crossed rivers or sailed ships. Maybe they stayed close to the same soil for generations until someone packed a bag and set off for a new land. Either way, you are part of this great mixing pot, proof that the best of our differences can come together to make us stronger, more resilient, and always ready to grow into something new. The space factor. The space factor. Itu war krawe befurk from Mestakain. The space factor. They love hiding in those bark. It is a quiet evening here on Earth, but up above us, far beyond the clouds and the blue sky, people are already living in space, floating inside the International Space Station, circling our planet again and again. When you think about evolution, it is easy to see how life has always been shaped by Earth's gravity, air, and sunlight. But what happens when we leave this familiar home? What might happen to our bodies and our children's bodies if one day we live on Mars or the Moon or even further away among the stars? Let us drift into a gentle bedtime thought experiment. Imagine you were one of the first people to travel to Mars to live there, not just for a few months, but for the rest of your life. Mars is like Earth in some ways, but very different in others. The pull of gravity on Mars is only about 1/3 of what you feel here. There is less air, less warmth, and more cosmic radiation from the sun and distant galaxies. These small things add up, and over generations, they could shape our bodies in ways we are only beginning to imagine. Even now, astronauts who spend months in space give us clues about what microgravity does to the human body. On the International Space Station, astronauts float instead of walk. They do not have to fight against Earth's pull every time they stand, move, or lift something. As a result, their muscles shrink because they do not have to work as hard. Their bones lose strength because they are not holding up the same weight. Without daily exercise, they would return to Earth with bones so weak they could break easily. That is why astronauts spend hours each day running on treadmills and lifting weights strapped down with special harnesses just to keep their bodies strong enough to come home. But what if you were born on Mars? What if your parents and grandparents grew up in a world where everything weighs so much less? Would you even need the same bones and muscles that Earth-born humans do? Some scientists think people might slowly grow taller and leaner in low gravity. Without heavy bones weighing them down, they could stretch out more as they grow. Their spines might lengthen in ways that Earth's gravity normally squeezes back down. But taller, thinner bodies might come with trade-offs. Weaker bones could break easily if someone ever returned to Earth. Lighter muscles might mean less strength for lifting and carrying. To keep balance, Mars-born humans might have to develop new ways to move, maybe a gentle, bounding walk instead of the heavy steps we take on Earth. Mars might also shape our skin and eyes. The planet has very little atmosphere to block out cosmic radiation. Earth's magnetic field and thick blanket of air protect us from most of this invisible energy. On Mars, people might need to spend more time inside thick-walled shelters to stay safe, but some of that radiation might still slip through. Over generations, our bodies might respond by building stronger natural defenses. Perhaps darker skin or thicker skin could help protect cells from damage. Or maybe people would rely on technology, special suits, shields, and medicines to do the job that evolution would take much longer to do on its own. Food would be different too. Farming on Mars would likely mean growing plants in greenhouses under artificial lights. The foods we eat help shape our bodies and even the bacteria living in our guts. New diets could gently shift how our digestive systems work, what nutrients we need, and how our bodies store energy in a cold, dry place so far from the warmth of Earth's sun. What about babies born on Mars? Pregnancy, birth, and early childhood might all feel different in lower gravity. No one knows yet what microgravity would do to a growing baby's bones and muscles, or how it would shape a young heart that never had to pump blood against Earth's pull. Scientists are studying these questions carefully before humans set up colonies far from home. And then, of course, there is the human spirit. Would Mars families feel different from Earth families? Would a child raised under a pink sky and two tiny moons feel Earth-like at all? Or would they slowly think of themselves as Martians, the first true space-born generation? Over hundreds or thousands of years, these new humans might become so well suited to life on Mars that Earth would feel strange to them. They might stand taller, bones lighter, skin adapted to the dusty red plains and the sharp sunlight. It is a gentle reminder that evolution is always listening. It does not stop just because we wear suits or live in domes. If we stay on Mars for generations, tiny changes will build up in our genes, our muscles, our bones, and someday our distant space-born grandchildren might look back at Earth as the place where their ancestors were shaped by oceans, forests, and gravity that pressed down on every step. So tonight, as you drift to sleep, imagine people living under a Martian sunrise. Imagine the sound of footsteps on red dust, children laughing in low gravity, and humans building a new story among the stars. Our future may be scattered across planets, but wherever we go, evolution will follow, shaping us gently, patiently, one quiet change at a time. 2. Why will we evolve into cyborgs? Imagine waking up one day to find that you could hear better than anyone else because you have a tiny implant inside your ear that makes sound clearer. Or imagine that you can see in the dark because you have special lenses built right into your eyes. Maybe your arm was once injured in an accident, but now it is stronger than ever because a bionic limb has taken its place. These ideas might sound like science fiction, but for some people, they are already real. We live in a world where the line between what is natural and what is made by human hands is slowly disappearing. This gentle question lingers. Are we evolving into cyborgs? And if so, does that mean we are writing our own evolution instead of waiting for nature to do it for us? A cyborg, short for cybernetic organism, is simply a being made from both organic parts and artificial ones. Right now, many people already carry tiny pieces of technology inside them. Some have heart pacemakers that help their hearts beat in a steady rhythm. Others have cochlear implants that help them hear the voices of loved ones after years of silence. People who lose a leg or an arm sometimes use high-tech prosthetics that move when they think about moving. Each of these inventions starts as a way to fix what was broken. But what happens when people begin using technology to go beyond normal? Take brain chips, for example. Scientists are exploring ways to help people with injuries or illnesses regain control over their movements. These tiny devices can connect the brain to a computer, turning thoughts into action. One day, brain chips might help people remember better, learn faster, or even communicate without speaking a word. Biohacking goes even further. Some people experiment with their bodies in new ways, adding magnets under their skin to feel electric currents, or using gene editing to try and change how their cells work. These changes are small for now, but they raise big questions. If we can add technology to our bodies to make us stronger, smarter, or longer lived, will we keep doing it? If we do, the old rules of natural selection could change. For millions of years, evolution has shaped us slowly, picking the traits that helped us survive storms, predators, and diseases. Now, instead of waiting for tiny mutations in our DNA, we use science and engineering to pick what we want to keep or improve. It is like holding the pencil and writing our own next chapter. But it is not just about adding new parts. Think about how we already rely on our phones, computers, and smartwatches. They hold our memories, guide us when we are lost, and let us talk to people on the other side of the world. Some people already feel like these devices are part of them, extensions of their minds and bodies. What happens when those tools no longer live in our pockets, but inside us? One day, a tiny chip could help you think faster, or connect you to the internet without lifting a finger. Special lenses might show you information right in front of your eyes. Artificial limbs might be so advanced that athletes with prosthetics could run faster or lift more than anyone with flesh and bone. Of course, this dream of becoming cyborgs comes with risks and puzzles too. Will everyone have access to these improvements, or will only a few people be able to afford them? Could some people be left behind while others move forward? And what happens if something goes wrong, if a chip fails or a bionic part breaks down? There is also the question of what it means to be human. Are we still human if parts of us are made of metal and wires? Or does being human mean more than the sum of our parts? Perhaps it is our kindness, curiosity, and love for each other that truly makes us who we are. Evolution is still with us, always watching. Our bones, skin, and genes will keep changing in small ways. But now, our ideas, inventions, and choices are shaping us too. Some people call this directed evolution, a new path where we blend biology and technology to adapt faster than nature ever could on its own. So as you lie down to sleep tonight, picture a future where people walk with new limbs, see with new eyes, and think with help from tiny machines inside their heads. Picture families where grandparents remember stories better because of a chip in their brain. Picture children born into a world where the line between what is human and what is machine is so thin that it barely matters anymore. Are we evolving into cyborgs? Maybe we already are, one tiny step at a time. Nature shaped us to be dreamers and builders, and now, through technology, we are dreaming up new ways to become more than we were yesterday. One day, our grandchildren may look back and see this time as the moment when we picked up the pen, opened the book of evolution, and began to write our own next chapter by hand, heart, and circuit. To a found Knorr, CRISPR and gene editing, 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 CRISPR and gene editing. For most of human history, people had no idea how tiny, invisible things called genes shaped who we are. Our ancestors knew that children often looked like their parents. They saw that certain traits like curly hair, tall height, or dimples could run in families, but they did not know why. It is only in the past 100 years that we have learned how DNA works as the instruction manual for all living things. Now, with modern science, we do not just read this manual, we can change it. One of the most powerful tools for doing this is called CRISPR. It is a strange word, but what it means is simple. CRISPR is like a pair of tiny scissors that can cut and fix parts of our DNA. Think of your DNA as a long, twisting ladder made of tiny chemical letters. These letters spell out the instructions for how your body grows, heals, and functions. But sometimes there is a mistake in the code. A single letter out of place can cause a disease like cystic fibrosis, sickle cell anemia, or certain types of blindness. Before CRISPR, we could not easily fix these mistakes. Doctors could treat the symptoms, but they could not reach deep into the cells to correct the root cause. Now, scientists can go into that genetic code, snip out the broken part, and replace it with the right one. It is like fixing a spelling mistake in a giant book, except the book is your own body. At first, CRISPR was used mostly in lab animals and plants. Scientists used it to grow crops that resist disease or insects, or to study how certain genes work. But now, human trials are already underway to see if we can safely fix genes that cause serious illnesses. Some people with genetic diseases have already been treated with gene editing, and early results are hopeful. This is a huge step forward for human health. Imagine a future where a baby born with a life-threatening condition could be cured not with years of medicine and hospital visits, but with one tiny change to their DNA. Parents who carry genes for certain inherited diseases might not have to worry about passing them on. Families who once faced generations of suffering could see that chain broken for good. But gene editing does not stop at treating diseases. The same tool that can fix harmful mutations could also be used to change traits that are not life-threatening at all. What if parents could pick their baby's eye color, height, or even boost certain talents? This is where the idea of designer babies comes in, a future where people might choose traits for their children, not just to heal, but to enhance. Some people find this exciting. They see a world where humans could use gene editing to become stronger, healthier, and more resistant to disease. Others feel uneasy. They worry that if we start picking and choosing traits, we might lose sight of what makes us human. Would we judge people by their natural differences? Would only the wealthy have access to these changes, leaving others behind? This is why many scientists and governments are being very careful. Right now, gene editing in humans is mostly used only to treat diseases, not to design perfect children. There are strict rules in place because changing someone's genes does not just affect that one person. If a change is made to sperm, eggs, or embryos, it can be passed down to future generations. Once a change is in the family line, it cannot be easily undone. CRISPR and other gene editing tools mark the dawn of what some people call artificial evolution. For millions of years, evolution has been shaped by random changes in our DNA, guided by natural selection. Now, for the first time, humans have the power to steer that process on purpose. Instead of waiting for nature to see what works, we can try to fix or improve parts of ourselves in one generation. It is amazing to think about, and a little humbling too. This technology asks us big questions about what kind of future we want to create. Do we use it only to cure sickness and ease suffering, or do we push the limits and design our descendants to look, think, or act a certain way? Who decides what is better or worse? CRISPR shows us that evolution is no longer just about nature's slow hand. It is about the choices we make with the tools we invent. In a way, we are becoming partners with nature, editing, improving, and experimenting alongside the quiet work of time and chance. As you rest tonight, think about the tiny code deep inside you, the same code that links you to your ancestors stretching back through time. And think about the new chapters we might write in that code, for better or worse. CRISPR reminds us that we stand at the edge of a powerful new frontier, one that asks us not just how we can change, but how wisely we can use this gift. One careful cut, one gentle repair, one hopeful chance to shape tomorrow together. Designer babies debate. Imagine standing in a doctor's office someday, looking at a screen that shows the building blocks of your future child. You see rows of letters and numbers that hold the secrets of their hair color, eye color, height, and even things like their risk for certain illnesses, or maybe their ability to learn new languages quickly. Now imagine the doctor says, "You can choose. Would you like to make changes?" It sounds like a story from a science fiction movie, but this idea is getting closer to reality every year. Thanks to gene editing tools like CRISPR, scientists can now change parts of our DNA with a precision that would have seemed like magic not so long ago. It began with the hope of curing terrible genetic diseases that cause pain and early death. But as our tools get better, people are starting to wonder, should we use the same science to choose what our babies will look like? How smart they might be? How tall? How fast they can run? These children are often called designer babies, babies whose genetic traits were chosen by their parents before they were born. Some people see this as an amazing step forward. After all, who would not want to give their child every chance to live a healthy, happy life? If you could remove a gene that would cause blindness, why wouldn't you? If you could make sure your child would never get a certain kind of cancer, why wouldn't you? But what about changing things that are not life-threatening, like eye color, hair texture, or how tall a child will grow? What about changing things that are even more complicated, like personality traits or intelligence? This is where the dream and the dilemma begin to tangle together. On one side of the debate, some people say that parents have always wanted the best for their children. We already make choices to help kids grow strong and smart, from the food we feed them to the schools we send them to. Choosing certain genes, they say, is just another way of giving kids a good start. But others say it is different when you choose what traits a child will have before they are even born. Nature works in mysterious ways. Many traits, like intelligence, are shaped by hundreds, sometimes thousands of tiny pieces of DNA, working together with a child's environment, family, and life experiences. Picking one or two smart genes might not make a child a genius, and even if it did, who gets to decide what is smart enough? Then there is the worry about fairness. If gene editing for traits like height or intelligence becomes common, will everyone be able to afford it, or will only the wealthiest families have access to these special changes? Some people fear that this could widen the gap between rich and poor, creating a world where some children are made to be stronger, healthier, or smarter than others simply because their parents could pay for it. There is also the question of identity. Our quirks and differences are part of what makes us human. A crooked smile, a freckle-covered nose, or even a family trait passed down for generations can carry stories and connections to our ancestors. Some people worry that if we start picking traits like items from a menu, we might lose something precious, the unexpected surprises that make each person unique. And what about the children themselves? A baby cannot choose what parts of their DNA get changed. Would they feel pressured to live up to their parents' design? If you were chosen to be tall, smart, or athletic, would you feel like you could not be anything else? Right now, most scientists agree that gene editing should stay focused on preventing serious diseases, not picking out cosmetic traits. Many countries have strict rules to stop people from creating designer babies just because they want a child with blue eyes or a certain height. But technology moves fast. Some worry that these rules could change in the future, or that people might travel to places with looser laws to get the traits they want for their children. In the end, the designer baby debate is really about how we see ourselves and each other. It asks us to think about what it means to be human. Is it our genes, or is it our stories, our kindness, our ability to grow and change in ways no one can predict? As you drift off to sleep tonight, think about the generations before you who could never have imagined choosing the color of their children's eyes, or whether they would be tall or short. They passed down what they had, one small chance at a time, through love and hope and all the surprises that life brings. Maybe that is the gentle truth at the heart of this debate, that we hold powerful tools in our hands, but it is our choices and our care for each other that will decide how we use them. The dream is big, the dilemma is real, and the next part of the story is ours to write, together. 5. Evolution of social behaviors. Evolution of social behaviors. For as long as people have gathered around campfires, built villages, and told stories to each other under the stars, our social behaviors have been part of how we survive and grow. Being able to work together, share food, raise children, and solve problems as a group has shaped who we are just as much as our bones and muscles have. In the past, you needed to be able to read other people's faces, sense danger in a stranger's voice, or build trust with neighbors who would help you in hard times. But now, our world is changing fast, especially how we connect with each other. We do not always gather in person like our ancestors did. More and more, we talk through screens. We send messages across oceans in seconds. We video chat with people we have never met in real life. Some of us work alone in our homes all day, connected to coworker only by little boxes on a screen. This makes some people wonder, will our social behaviors, the small traits that help us connect and get along, start to change too? Are we drifting into a new chapter of human evolution, one shaped by a world of digital connections instead of campfire circles and village squares? Take the idea of introverts and extroverts. For a long time, people who love to be around big groups, meet new people, and speak up often had certain advantages. They might have made more connections, found mates easily, or built alliances that kept them and their families safer. But now, being an extrovert does not always mean what it once did. And in today's digital age, someone who is quiet and prefers deep one-on-one talks might feel more comfortable. Many jobs can be done remotely. You do not have to stand in front of a crowd to share your ideas. You can write them in an email or a message board. People who enjoy thinking deeply, working alone, or focusing on quiet tasks might do better now than they would have in a noisy ancient marketplace. Does that mean introverted traits could slowly become more common? It is too early to say, but it is one of the gentle puzzles we are beginning to explore. The way we socialize is changing, so is the way we find love. In the past, you mostly met partners who lived nearby. Now, dating apps and social media connect people across cities, countries, and continents. Some people are drawn to profiles full of loud photos and witty jokes. Others look for calm, thoughtful words that show patience and kindness. Then there is the question of empathy, our ability to sense what others feel and care about it. Empathy helped us build families and villages. It helped us comfort a friend after loss or welcome a stranger into our circle. But empathy often depends on what we see and hear. In a world where we read text on screens instead of faces in front of us, do we risk losing some of that skill? Some researchers worry that spending less time reading real-life facial expressions or hearing someone's voice might make it harder for our brains to practice empathy. When you can hide behind a screen, it can feel easier to be unkind. On the other hand, technology can also open our hearts. Many people feel connected to others they might never have met without the internet. We read stories from people who live very different lives. We see photos that show us struggles and joys far from our own homes, and we come together online to help when disaster strikes somewhere else. Maybe our empathy will simply adapt. Maybe we will grow better at feeling compassion through words and photos, even when we cannot hold someone's hand. Our brains are flexible after all. These small questions drift into bigger ones about how personality traits might shift in the digital age. Will people who can stay calm under a flood of information thrive? Will those who can focus for long hours at a screen have an edge? Or will people who still crave face-to-face connection and build strong communities in real life help balance out the world we have built online? Only time will tell. Evolution moves slowly, even when our world changes quickly. Tiny shifts in how we find partners, how we work, and how we raise children will shape which traits drift forward. And always, culture and choice play a part too. We can choose to teach our children how to care for others, how to listen, and how to connect, both on screens and across kitchen tables. So as you drift to sleep tonight, think about all the quiet ways our social world shapes us. Think of your grandparents or great-grandparents gathering in busy town squares or chatting over fences. Think of how you send a kind text to a friend far away, or how you share a video call with family who live in another country. All these small moments are threads that weave the next chapter of our human story. Maybe the truth is simple. Our screens might change the way we gather, but our hearts still need each other. And whether we whisper under the stars or type a message from miles away, the gentle evolution of our social behaviors will keep following us, one choice and one connection at a time. Day 6, or evolution, doesn't have a goal. After wandering through all these gentle stories about how humans have changed and how we might keep changing, it helps to pause and remember one quiet truth. Evolution does not have a finish line. It does not aim for perfection. It does not push us forward or pull us backward. It simply happens, step by step, moment by moment, as life adjusts to the world around it. Many people imagine evolution as a ladder that we climb, rung by rung, always going up towards something better. But that is not how nature works. It is not about being the strongest or smartest in every single way. It is about what works for this place, this time, this challenge. What helps life survive today might be useless tomorrow if the world changes again. Think of how our ancestors once needed big jaws and extra teeth because they ate raw roots, tough meat, and grains ground between stones. Back then, strong jaws and more teeth were good traits. They helped people chew enough food to stay alive. But as we learned to cook and soften our meals, our jaws shrank and some people stopped growing wisdom teeth altogether. Were big jaws better? Not when soft bread and soup replaced hard roots. Nature does not pick favorites. It simply notices what works and passes it on. Or think of skin color. In places with intense sunlight, dark skin protects against harmful rays and helps people stay healthy. In places with long winters and weak sun, lighter skin helps the body soak up more sunlight to make vitamin D. Neither is better or worse. Each simply fits the sunlight, the seasons, and the foods of its place. Sometimes a trait that helps in one moment can be a challenge in another. The sickle cell gene is a good example. In places where malaria is common, carrying this gene can help people survive the disease. But if you have 2 copies of the gene, it can cause sickle cell disease, a painful condition that shortens life. So is the gene good or bad? It depends on the environment. It depends on the balance. Even our new inventions, the medicines, tools, and technologies we make, shape evolution's path in unexpected ways. Vaccines save millions of lives. Antibiotics fight infections that once wiped out entire villages. But overuse of antibiotics has helped some bacteria evolve to resist our strongest drugs. These tiny germs are not being smart. They are just changing in ways that help them survive our new tricks. All of this shows that change is not about moving forward towards some perfect version of ourselves. There is no grand plan waiting for us. There is no perfect human form at the end of this story. We are not climbing a staircase. We are growing like a tree, twisting, branching, spreading out in all directions at once. Every living thing is part of this same dance. Flowers open and close with the seasons. Birds change their calls and colors to find mates and hide from predators. Fish adjust to warmer or colder oceans. Even the tiny bacteria inside our bodies shift and swap their genes to survive. Nothing in nature is frozen. Everything moves. It can be comforting to know that you do not have to be perfect either. You carry the strength of your ancestors in your bones and your blood, but you also carry their odd quirks and imperfections. Maybe you need glasses. Maybe you catch colds easily. Maybe you have a stubborn tooth that never grew right. These small flaws are just part of the story. They remind us that we are all works in progress. As humans, we often feel like we need to fix everything, polish every edge, or push ourselves to become the best version of what we think we should be. But evolution whispers that there is no best, just what fits, for now, just what works well enough to carry life forward, one more day, one more child, one more heartbeat at a time. So as you settle in tonight, breathe out that need to be perfect. Imagine all the generations that came before you, each one shaped by floods and fires, ice and warmth, love and loss. They did not need to be flawless to keep the story going. They needed only to survive, to help each other, and to pass on what worked. Change does not always feel gentle. Sometimes it brings storms. Sometimes it drifts so slowly we barely notice. But it never stops, and it does not have to. You are not on a ladder. You must climb to the top. You are a branch on a tree that keeps growing, reaching for the light in whatever direction it finds. Evolution does not have a goal. It does not ask for perfection. It only asks for life to keep trying, adjusting, sharing, and surviving. In the morning, when you wake, you will still be part of that long living story. Not a final draft, but a living draft, beautifully unfinished, ready for whatever comes next. You are evolution. You are evolution. You are. After drifting through the big ideas of how humans have changed and how we might keep changing, it can be easy to think of evolution as something that only happens far away, in ancient bones or distant futures. But here is something gentle and true. You are not just watching evolution happen, you are it. You are living proof that life always finds a way to grow and adapt, one person at a time, one choice at a time. Inside you, your DNA carries secrets from millions of years ago. It is like a book written by your ancestors, each one adding their own lines, edits, and footnotes. Some of those ancestors may have faced ice ages and long winters that shaped how their bodies held on to warmth. Some faced burning sun and bright skies that changed the color of their skin. Some learned to drink milk as adults, while others passed down genes that help fight off certain diseases. You carry those ancient whispers in your bones and blood. You do not have to know their names to feel their presence. Maybe you see them in your hair that curls just like your grandmother's, or in the freckles that appear on your skin each summer. Maybe you feel them in the way your body works hard to fight off a cold or repairs a cut without you having to think about it. These tiny gifts, these traits and strengths came to you through countless moments of survival, love, and chance. But it is not just your DNA that makes you part of evolution. It is also your choices, the way you live, who you love, what you teach, and how you care for the world around you. Your life shapes the lives that come after you, even if you never have children of your own. Each kindness you show, each lesson you pass on, each community you help build becomes part of the story. Think of the people you meet in your lifetime. Some of them will carry pieces of your influence forward. The words you say might echo in their minds when they need courage. The way you treat them might become the way they treat others. This is another kind of inheritance, a soft thread that connects us all, just like our DNA does. Your everyday choices ripple outward, sometimes in ways you might never see. Maybe you choose to grow a garden that feeds bees and birds. Maybe you stand up for someone who feels alone. Maybe you work to keep the air and water clean so that future children can breathe freely. Every small act of care becomes part of how life keeps adapting to this changing world. You are also part of a bigger experiment, one that humans are writing together. Our technology, our medicine, and our new ideas are reshaping what is possible. Your generation carries tools that your ancestors could never have imagined. You live in a time when people can edit genes, travel across the globe in a day, and share ideas in seconds with strangers on the other side of the world. These things change what we pass on and how we survive the challenges ahead. Even your mind is proof of evolution. The fact that you can wonder about where you came from, feel curious about who you are, and dream about who you might become shows how far your family line has come. You are not just a collection of cells and bones. You are a storyteller, a thinker, a maker of meaning. You are life reflecting on itself, asking what happens next. So tonight, as you rest your eyes and drift into sleep, remember that you are not separate from nature's patient plan. You are a living chapter of Earth's story, a story that stretches back before the first spark of fire and reaches forward into tomorrows you may never see. You are shaped by the choices of people who came before you, and you will shape the choices of people who come after. You do not have to be perfect to belong in this story. Evolution does not ask you to be flawless. It asks you to keep trying, to keep loving, to keep learning. Each heartbeat, each breath you take, carries the wisdom and resilience of countless generations who survived, adapted, and passed their hope forward. So hold that truth close tonight. You are not just part of evolution. You are evolution. You are the dream that began in ancient seas and grew legs to walk on land. You are the laugh of a child who carries your smile. You are the promise that life, no matter how hard it gets, finds a way to keep going, keep changing, and keep growing. And tomorrow, when you wake up to greet the day, you will keep writing this story, one gentle step at a time, soothing sign off. So as you lay your head down and let your eyes get heavy tonight, remember this simple truth. You are not stuck or frozen in place. You are not a finished statue carved in stone, nor a fossil buried in the ground. You are a living, breathing work in progress. Each day you change in small ways you may not even see. Your body is busy repairing itself. Your mind is busy learning. Your heart keeps beating out a rhythm that connects you to every person who came before you. Think of all the things that shaped you. You were shaped by stars. The iron in your blood was once forged in the belly of an ancient star, long before our sun was born. You were shaped by storms, the wild winds and rains that changed the lands your ancestors crossed, the seasons that pushed them to find food and warmth and shelter. You were shaped by a billion tiny steps, every moment when life adjusted just enough to keep going, to pass on something new, to try something different. Even now, you are still changing. Your bones grow stronger and weaker and stronger again. Your skin makes new cells every second. Your thoughts drift and bend and expand as you read, listen, and dream, and your story keeps flowing forward with every breath you take. You are the hope of those who came before you, wrapped up in one single heartbeat. You carry the courage of people who braved winters with no fire, the cleverness of those who shaped sharp stones into tools, the love of people who stood together against storms and hunger, and you carry the promise of tomorrow, the soft idea that life will keep trying through you, passing forward your laughter, your kindness, and your spark of curiosity. So if you ever feel like you have to be perfect right now, hush that thought. You do not. Nature does not ask you to be flawless. It only asks you to grow, to adjust, to keep moving in your own small way. You are allowed to stumble. You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to drift and dream and wonder where your path might go next. Tonight, as you close your eyes, imagine all the little pieces of you humming with quiet work, cells dividing, tiny signals zipping through your brain, your breath carrying oxygen that feeds every corner of you. You are not static. You are alive in every sense of the word, a gentle swirl of stardust, stories and secrets that belong only to you. You are a reminder that change is not something to fear. It is something to trust, like the tide that goes out and comes back in, like the moon that grows full and thin again, like the seeds that sleep all winter and wake in the spring. So sleep well tonight, dear listener. Let your worries soften for now. You are right where you are meant to be, in this gentle moment between what was and what will be. You are safe here, part of this sleepy corner of curiosity, part of this tiny, cozy world where it is okay to wonder and wander. Before you drift all the way into dreams, I would love to hear from you. Leave a comment below and tell me, where in the world are you listening from tonight? What city or little town is your pillow resting in right now? I love picturing this circle of sleepy dreamers stretching across the map, each of us connected by our shared wonder. If these bedtime rambles about science, stars, and stories help you drift off, please tap that like button. It tells me you are out there, listening and dreaming along with me. And if you have not already, subscribe so you do not miss our next dreamy adventure. There are so many more soft questions to explore together, and I would love to have you here for every single one. So good night for now, beautiful work in progress. May you rest easy under the same stars that shaped you. May you wake tomorrow ready to keep changing, one small, perfect, unfinished step at a time. Sweet dreams.